Welcome to today's edition of 3 Minutes of Halacha. Today I want to begin our discussion of the Pesukei de Zimra, the collection of psukim and of tehillim that we recite before Shachrit. They begin with a bracha, which we call Baruch Shamar, and they end with a bracha, which we refer to as Yishtabach. But these brachot are later in origin, coming from the time of the Gaonim, specifically from the time of Rav Amram Gaon, who records them for the very first time in his Siddur. The Rishonim, however, debate what's the purpose of Pesukei de Zimra. The Mishnah in Brachot and Daf Lamed Amud Bet talks about the story of the Hasidim Rishonim, of the original pious people who would come to shul early, up to an hour before davening to prepare themselves for davening. Explains the Tosafot in that location that this is the origin of Pesukei de Zimra. We imitate what those Hasidim Rishonim did by saying all of these psukim and by reciting Ashrei before we daven, to get our minds in the right place before we enter Shachrit. Based on this, Rishonim suggests that if a person had to skip the Pesukei de Zimra because they came to shul late and needed to be able to recite Shemona Esrei with everyone else, the ultimate mitzvah of Tefillah B'tzibur, that there'd be no need to make it up again, because according to this position of this Mishnah and of Tosfot, the idea of Pesukei de Zimra is to prepare ourselves for Shachrit. When Shachrit is recited, there's no need to prepare ourselves any further. But the Rambam seems to take a little bit of a different position, where he talks about the Pesukei de Zimra in the context of Ashrei. In Hilchot Tefillah Perek Zayin, he says that it's been customary not only say Ashrei 3 times a day, but also to have verses before and after them, and when we recite the Ashrei and Shachrit, to prepare ourselves. In other words, it seems to be, according to the Rambam, the Pesukei de Zimra is an independent obligation that we have. If that's the case, and if a person had to skip the Pesukei de Zimra for some reason to catch up, for example, they would still have an obligation to fulfill this individual, independent obligation of Pesukei de Zimra. The Tur Shulchan Aruch cites this debate, and he mentions that the Rosh, his father, actually insisted if someone came late to shul and didn't say Pesukei de Zimra at the right time, he would still have to make it up and would recite both Baruch Shamar and Yishtabach along with them. On the other hand, according to Rav Natranai Gaon, he says that there's no need to make up the Pesukei de Zimra if you had to skip them, seeming to suggest that according to him, it's all about preparing and not an independent mitzvah. The Shulchan Aruch takes a bit of a middle ground and rules that if someone had to skip Pesukei de Zimra, they should still say it later on, but without the 2 brachot, while the Aruch HaShulchan takes the position, along with the Bach and the Prisha, of what Rav Natranai Gaon said, and that if we had to skip Pesukei de Zimra, there's absolutely no obligation to make it up later on, because they were just meant to be a preparation for Shachrit, and Shachrit was already said.